Here's a picture I drew, more of a portrait actually, brothers and sisters, quite some time ago of Rick Grimes, who's kind of the main character and the lead fella in the show, The Walking Dead over here. So if you like this and more, remember to follow me on the social networks. Season 4, Episode 1, 30 Days Without an Accident.
Well, hello, my brothers and sisters of the Nerd Dead Nation. I, of course, am Jim, here to bring you another review on the Season 4 premiere, 30 Days Without an Accident, of The Walking Dead. Now, everyone has really been looking forward to this, myself and my family included, and I'm going to give a quick breakdown of some of the things from this year that might be changes. As far as I'm concerned, first and foremost, I think it was the weakest season opener that there was. The first two seasons open with 90-minute episodes, which, take out the commercials, you're still getting a full solid hour. The third season, although only 60 minutes, was still pretty action-packed. This one just felt a little bit lackluster to me because they did another time skip. It starts out, it's 6, 7, 8 months later, whatever it may be. The prison, now if you remember at the end of last season, we had taken in all the refugees from Woodbury, mainly a lot of older people and kids and teenagers, things like that. But ultimately took everybody in, and over the time that we have not seen, they've started to build and form a community. We find out very quickly that there's a council, and the council, some of the main characters like Herschel, Rick, Daryl, even Tyrese and Sasha, they belong to this council. So apparently that's kind of what creates the order and semblance of sanity. And the episode starts off, and we just kind of see a lot of things that have happened in the prison. The walkers go and now just kind of shuffle in and come towards and build up on the fences, and they actually have people that have to take turns. It's like a job, taking sharp objects and stabbing these things in the face so they don't build up on the fences and their weight doesn't break the fences. There's some gardening going on, a lot of things that we saw in the previews. Herschel's tending to some plants, they're growing some things. It's a real community. There's story time for the kids. Everybody kind of has their jobs. But the basic breakdown of things, and there's two kind of major things that happen in here, and there was a bunch of new characters that were introduced, and some of the names I didn't even catch right away. But the first thing that happened was Rick. Rick went and was going to go off, and he is going to go on a run by himself to check these traps that they have set out in the forest to hopefully catch, deer or whatever other type of wild animal. And he goes and checks them regularly to make sure the walkers don't get to him, and hopefully they've got some fresh meat, some fresh food. Some of the characters are like celebrities as well around the camp. One kid wants to shake Daryl's hand, just because he brought back this deer the day before. And so there's a lot of this type of stuff going on where it seems like they're the rock stars. Our main group of survivors that we've been following for 3 years are now the celebrities, the rock stars, if you will, of the camp. But the main thing that happens is Rick goes out to check these traps, and he encounters in the woods what at first, when I looked at it, I thought it was some kind of like crazy zombie. It was this woman that looked like she was shambling around. And then all of a sudden she turns and she says, "Help, help," and she's real weak voiced. And she looks like a zombie. I mean, she's just haggard and dirty and hair mussed up and everything. Looks like a zombie. Somebody's died and come back to life and doesn't comb their hair regularly, right? But so the part of the story takes place with Rick going and following her. He talks to her, meets up with her. She asks him to help her carry this dead boar back to her camp, and she's going to get back to her husband Eddie. Well, the whole time I didn't really trust her at all, but while this is going on, you have the other half of the story, which is taking place intertwined, and that's Daryl, Tyrese, Sasha, Glenn, a number of them, some new black guy, I don't know what his name is yet, I forget actually. Daryl found him though, and they're all going on this supply run, right? So they wind up going to this, basically what's the equivalent of like a Kmart or a Walmart, some kind of department store type place that's got everything from electronics and microwaves to liquor and whatever. So that's the cool part and the action part of the story. Okay, the thing with Rick, I'll get back into and explain at the end of it, but it doesn't really ever materialize in anything important. What winds up happening is that you see that now they act together as a team, and they move in, they clear out, they check for zombies. When they go in a certain formation. It's all very regimented and very much like, hey, listen, we're trying to cut down. A lot of them are wearing body armor and things like that. Like Glenn goes in and he's got like full pads on, man. I mean, every pad you can imagine, except for his hands and face are covered. because then obviously the zombies can't bite you and infect you. So we wind up finding out, though, it zooms out and shows the top of this building right before it goes to commercial, and there's like tons of zombies walking around up there, and there's a helicopter that has crashed on the top of the building, okay? So you're looking at that going, this isn't going to be good. I can see the writing on the wall. I'm not, I don't have a magic ball, a crystal ball to see into the future, but this isn't going to be good in the immediate future. So as everybody's walking around and comes back from commercial and they're looking around, they got shopping carts, they're filling stuff up because they're on a supply run. Couple cars full of people, and then Daryl on his big ass motorcycle, 7 or 8 of them. Well, the new black guy, he goes, and obviously he must have had some kind of problem with alcoholism before, because he sits there and he has a long look, and he has a real loving look with a bottle of wine for a while. Takes it off the shelf, looks at it, he wants some, and then he goes and he winds up putting it back. As he puts it back, everything just collapses on this whole wooden shelf, and this whole thing comes flying down on him, and he's trapped underneath it, right? While this is happening, and he wound up seeing something dripping from the ceiling, what it is the helicopter, where it crashed in, started to rot out some of the ceiling, and now because of the ceiling, collapsing in, that sound from everything falling on him drew all the walkers to it. And the next thing you know, as everybody of course is trying to help him, Daryl and such, to help him get out of there, he winds up, all these walkers start falling in through the ceiling. So this is really the cool action part of the whole episode, I guess you would say, unless you want to count people stabbing walkers in the face through the fence, which I thought was a little lackluster and boring, and honestly is a despicable job that I wouldn't want to do. So anyway, Glenn almost dies. He gets, there's a couple of walkers on top of him, but the body armor I was talking about earlier saves him. We see a ton of just great action with, Glenn and Daryl, Tyrese. Sasha's got an assault rifle. Daryl's just being the badass that he is. And ultimately they wind up losing this younger kid who was, I guess, kind of dating Beth, one of Herschel's daughters. And we kind of, we see them say goodbye to each other at the beginning of the episode, and as soon as they do, I'm just like, he's dead. He's done, right? He's just a no-name character they're going to kill off. And sure as shit they did. They killed him. So everybody just barely gets out of and escapes that whole mess. We go back to Rick, and Rick is following this woman through the woods. She asked if he would come back to her camp and meet this Eddie, her husband, and she talks about these unimaginable, unthinkable things they've had to do. They were on their way to Puerto Vallarta, but got stuck at the airport, and all hell broke loose. End of the world, apocalypse, zombies, that sort of thing. Well, what winds up happening is the whole time I don't trust her. I think she's just luring him into a trap. Well, she lures him back to where she was encamped or what have you, and then she goes over and starts talking. She's like, "Oh, Eddie, look, I brought something. Oh, someone's here, blah, blah, blah." Then she goes, and as Rick's kind of staring into the tent, seeing that there's only one pillow and one sleeping bag, and he's like, "What, is this woman just batshit crazy, insane?" She turns and comes at him with a knife. Now, he warned her earlier, okay? He warned her. He's like, "Listen, don't fuck with me, lady, because you will lose everything." She says, "I have nothing to lose." And, but Rick, he's gone to the edge and come back, okay? So we know Rick will stab, shoot, whatever he's going to do to live and live another day. But she comes at him and tries to kill him. He goes and flips her easily on the ground and pulls his gun out to her head. She winds up stabbing herself. And basically, the only thing I can surmise, they never really showed it, there was just sort of a hood covering over it, is that her husband died and had turned, and she was trying to lure Rick back there so she could feed it something living, because by the time she got this boar back there that had been hurt or that she had, injured, it would be dead, and the zombies only like to eat living flesh, I guess, right? So she was hoping to lure Rick back there, get the jump on him, and then feed him to her dead husband. That's the only thing that I can assume, because they never really show, they just sort of show like what looks like a head with like a bag over it, but... So Rick winds up, she stabs herself, and Rick goes, and there was this whole thing about, if you come back to the camp, we have to ask you 3 questions, or I have to ask you 3 questions. So she asks as she's dying, what are the 3 questions? I don't know if there's significance later on, but I happen to remember what he said, and he said, first of all, he said, how many walkers have you killed? And then the second question was, how many people have you killed? And then the third question was, why? So I don't know if that's going to play a significant role into them bringing people in, because now it's just like an open town, man. I mean, people come in there, Daryl found this one guy out, and he brought him in, they bring people in all the time. We also go in, and there's a bunch of other kind of playing house type things in there. There's Carl, kind of coming of age a little bit. He's getting a little bit older now. Michonne, she has a horse now. She's been out looking for the governor. She goes out on these runs. She wound up coming back just in time to go on a supply run with them. And there's just a lot of craziness, going on. But for the most part, this was really just kind of they have a new showrunner. and a new producer for the show. In the first season, it was Frank Darabont, who's great. He's done a lot of movies and things like that. They wound up getting rid of him probably for budgetary reasons, and they had this other guy come on for this Glenn Mazzara for the second and third seasons, which I thought were okay, but never really realized their full potential. Now they got this guy Scott Gimple, third showrunner in 4 years. I'm really hoping that he can kind of right the ship and get things going, because there's so much good characters and so many good characters to develop. This younger kid that looks like he's about a teenager, and the episode leaves you on a cliffhanger. He had ducked out of story time with Carol earlier, and story time we found out also is actually like she goes and teaches kids how to use knives to defend themselves too. And then when Carl kind of discovers it, she's like, "Don't tell your dad." So apparently it's something that Rick hasn't sanctioned. But this kid who ducked out earlier because he was feeling sick kind of gets up in the middle of the night. Everybody's gotten back from out being on their run. Rick's back, blah, blah, blah. And he gets up, he's coughing, and he goes and of course they're sleeping in the cell box. They're sleeping in a prison, right? He gets up and goes to the bathrooms or showers or whatever and goes to kind of try to cool himself off with, by pumping the thing, getting the shower going. They've got running water. He winds up collapsing, right? And as he's coughing real bad, and the only thing I could think of is somehow this kid got infected. Maybe he was working the fence walls. Maybe he got scratched by one of these things. I don't know what the deal is. But at the end of the episode, he goes and you can see he's laying there and bleeding from the mouth and everything. And then all of a sudden he comes back and his eyes are yellowed and he's clearly a zombie. So that's how, the episode leaves off. All in all, I would say that it was an average, episode. I don't think that I overhyped it. I was looking forward to it. But honestly, earlier today, my wife was talking and she was saying, 'cause we watch it as a family, me and my wife and my son. And she said, "Oh, I'm just looking for it. I'm so excited about it." And we watched a bunch of episodes of season 3 yesterday just to kind of get us hyped. And I was excited, but at the same time, I was kind of like nervous and anxious, but at the same time, I was cautiously optimistic. And that was only because of the fact that I knew there was going to be this time skip from hearing about what was going on, and they didn't really leave you on a cliffhanger last year. Yeah, the governor's out there somewhere, that's great, what have you. But everybody came at the end of the season on the bus from Woodbury, and there was no plot line that was left dangling. And I think that was why there was no real sense of urgency. Like if I watched it now and did the review, or I watched it tomorrow morning, it really would have made no difference to me because it wasn't that stellar. It wasn't terrible either. I'm certainly looking forward to what the next 15 episodes of this season bring. So we did get to see all of our characters. I probably left out a little detail here or there. The raising pigs, there's a pig that's, injured or sick or something. And then by the end of the episode, when Rick gets back, the pig looks like it's dead. But again, like I said, there's not a whole lot to report on except for certainly Walking Dead is back. We're excited about that. And I'm just really hoping that this is kind of a slow burn that just builds up towards something really, really great. So the special effects of when the helicopter came crashing through the roof at the end, or at the end of that part of the story when they were in like the Kmart type place, that was cool. There were zombies falling in through, falling in everywhere. I mean, this was crazy. I mean, this was pop, pop, they're shooting them, hitting them, killing them. Michonne's just like a bad bitch. She's got her sword, man. She's cutting them up. And then at the end, they have to get out of there. And as they're getting out of there and running, it's like an action movie. This helicopter falls in and the whole ceiling collapses in as they're running towards the camera. So, like I said, all in all, a fair and average episode. And we're certainly looking forward to seeing the next one. So what I will ask, though, of the nation and anybody who wishes to comment, brothers and sisters, is my episode question is just, what do you think? What did you think of this particular opening, the season opener, as compared to the 3 seasons past? Like I said, in my opinion, it's the weakest, but opinions will differ. So opinions are like assholes. Everybody has one. I think that's what they say. But so remember to leave the answer to that question in the comments down below. Feel free to hit the thumbs up, the like button if you should think that I deserve it, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. We'll look forward to catching you in next week's episode, Nation.
As always, thank you, brothers and sisters, for liking, rating, commenting, subscribing, sharing. You're the ones that make this possible, so thank you for joining the nation. Hope you like this picture of a little Ricky.